These run true to size. You don't need to go up. Granted, they don't have 13s. The 12s were the biggest, but with the Shark 3, I had to go up to a 13 because of how kind of crunched the toe box gets on these. So these are still getting pretty crunched in the toe box, but they're bigger. They don't run small. So I still have ample room up in the forefoot and the toe box for my toes in these 12s, which is very reassuring because that tells me that the other 12s are probably going to fit me with all these other Chinese slides on this Ning website. Alright, good day to you all. I believe we are ready for this one. I'm not entirely positive which slide this is. I think it's the Ning, however it's pronounced. I'm not positive though, but if I had to put money on it, I think that's what it is. Which, if it is, then that's really cool because that verifies this website is legit, and they have a ton of other Chinese slides on the Ning website, and I don't think they charged any shipping either, which was kind of crazy. That's why I wasn't positive if they were legit or not, because it was like free shipping. And typically when it gets to the Chinese slides sent from China, like this has legit Chinese shipping information on it. They're usually pretty expensive, so I don't know if they're I don't know. I was gonna speculate with like free shipping, they're taking a cut with their profits, but helping kind of solidify the market a little bit. That apparently happened in the 90s with Japan and televisions. They were selling, that's why most of the TVs are Japanese, because they were selling them basically below profit to undercut the American market. And then once they had kind of a stranglehold over the market, they were able to increase their prices. So they took a cut for a period of time, after which they raised their prices and had complete dominion over the market because all of the U.S. Television manufacturers had already kind of failed. So that's I doubt that's what's going on with the Ning slides in the slide market, but something to ramble about. And I do believe that's what they are, because I kind of got like a green colorway with these, and I see green kind of through this plastic, so they had a few different options with the colors for these, so I thought the green ones looked kind of cool. How to open this without doing too much damage. So I think this one's kind of smashed because you can see the strap, it's still elevated over here, but over here it's like crunched down. So hopefully it is not creased too much. It's going to take me 10 minutes to get this thing unpackaged. Alright, these are the soft slippers, I think is what they were called. These were a viewer requested slide. I'll have to put the title earlier. I try to wait until I say the slide and then throw the title up, but since I've been unpackaging this for 10 minutes, we'll put the title in earlier. These look kind of nice. I'm hoping the sizing is good. They had 12s, but I think that was the largest size they had with these. So one thing that I am reserved about with all of these Chinese slides is the sizing. It did get a little, but it's not like crimped at all. It's just kind of flattened right there. But this is kind of squishy, a little more than I was anticipating. So these might actually be really good. So these were a viewer requested slide. I think they already owned them. They just wanted to hear what my take was on this particular slide, which tends to happen often. A lot of times people will request something that they are not familiar with, like the Brazilian guy, the Brazilian Crush Bro. but often there are people that already own the slide they're requesting. They just want to hear me talk about it, which is kind of an interesting perspective on things too. So now that we have these unpackaged, let me pull them up on the website, and I kind of like that fade. There's like a cool, and it's not just the lighting. There's like a cooler tint to the green towards the toe, and then it gets a little warmer coming back. There's a little more yellow to it. That's a nice subtle transition, but I'm not sure if it's picking up on the camera. So, all right, let me pull this up on the website, and we'll read the sales pitch real quick, and then we'll come back and look at them in hand. All right, so these are the Ning soft slipper, and I got them on shopnings.com. And I want to say they had free shipping. And there's a ton of other Chinese slide options on this website that now that I know this site is legit, I'm going to start systematically going through all of these Chinese slides, because a lot of them are kind of cool looking and are doing different things with like design and style, which is kind of cool. So we will check more of those out in the future. Oh, excuse me. Oh, I'm sleepy today. I didn't get a whole lot of sleep. Oh, and I set my alarm to get up early to get going on these videos, so I'm a little groggy, but I've consumed a good amount of caffeine, so hopefully we'll find that balance between fatigue and caffeination. I don't know if that's a word, caffeination. All right, Ning soft slipper. 2023 summer new release. The Ning soft slipper is unisex design with super comfortable EVA materials building. Ning restocked more item in 2024 spring-summer collection. As one of most classic slides line, Ning brings new in 2025 spring and summer season. That's your description. So I think there was some stuff that was lost in translation there, but EVA Thylon is the material. Stiffness is soft. Release date 2023 summer, 2024 summer. So I'm guessing they've come out with some new colorways from year to year, because there's a lot of different color options with this particular slide, which is kind of nice. They retail for $49.99, but they are on sale for $38.99. And like I said before, yeah, there's free shipping, which is pretty impressive with Chinese products. So I don't know if they're coming in from China and they're stiff-arming the tariffs. Excuse me. Or bypassing the tariffs somehow. Give me 1 second, I need a drink. Alright, so I don't know, but free shipping is pretty impressive, and they do have returns also, which is something that the Rigor website company needs to take some notes on. And I think that's everything we have to say about these. There's not a whole lot of information. The sizes range from US 6 to US 12, so I ordered the 12s. So if these are too small, then we'll contemplate our future with Ning, because I don't think they have a 13 in like any of these designs, any of these styles. I think 12 was like the max. In fact, I think some of them only went up to an 11, because I don't think Asian people have as large of feet as Westerners. So, all right. Let's go back and take a look at them in hand. Alright, I thought this green pair was pretty cool looking compared to the other color options. There was a couple other ones that looked pretty good, but the green were kind of unique. So it looks like, just looking at these cuts in the side, it makes me think of the Rigor real quick, to where we can see our insole in the side there. It's a very similar design, where it's kind of, the holes are kind of filled for the most part with the insole, but as you step down, it kind of compresses a little bit and opens them up. But this doesn't feel as soft as the Rigor insole, but it still might be pretty soft. So I kind of like the style on these. It makes me think of like chewing gum. I don't know. Just this is like a mint leaf or something. It just kind of has like a Wrigley's vibe going to it. Just these logos. We do have a little bit of a dimple here from where that top strap was kind of compressed down for a period of time. But other than that, I don't think there's too much of well, physically it is kind of warped to that shape, but over time on foot they might start to get their shape back. So that top strap is a little thinner, but other than that, that mark there wasn't a whole lot of visual impression left from being kind of smashed in the shipping. So that might be why the shipping is so cheap, because they're just wrapping them in bags. It would be nice if they came in a box. They would hold their shape a little bit longer, but com foam they are calling it. So we do have two different foams. This insole feels a little more squishy than the outsole. The outsole EVA feels a little bit firmer, but not a whole lot different. It's not like the contrast on the Rigor between the shell and the insole, which is a very stark contrast. The shell is very rigid and firm on the Rigors, where the shell on these still feel pretty soft. It still feels like a nice soft EVA, but then just the insole feels a little noticeably softer, like there's a little more compression under thumb. Let's take a look at the footbed. Let me look at the one that's not warped. So we've kind of got a relatively flat footbed. That's one thing I've noticed with the Chinese slide designs is the ergos aren't extremely prominent. They're a little flat on these. There's a little bit of an arch rise. It's hard to see. It's very subtle. It's on the kind of inner side. A little bit of an inner arch, though it does go across the whole length or the whole width of it. I see just a little bit of a slope down. You can kind of see it from that angle. Right before the toe grooves, it dips down a little bit for the ball of the foot. And then we've got some little dimple notches here for the toes. So it's a very, very soft footbed to it in terms of the ergos. It's not very prominent, very aggressive. So that must be another characteristic with Asian feet. And forgive my generalization, but I've just noticed that the footbeds tend to be more flat. So I'm guessing that Easterners don't have as prominent of an arch as Westerners might have. So something to take note of, I guess. And there's our sizing. I did go with the 12, so this must be the 295 in CN. So we've got some very gradual sculpting elements on the outside up on the strap. We've got a line here. There's a little bit of a U kind of sculpted in, and we've got some lines in the back here that kind of jive with this logo emblem on the side with the Wrigley's logo. There's our vents that we had on the inside. Oh, they are different. So the outside we've got some vertical diagonals, which are kind of nice. These kind of line up with these diagonals back here and with the logo. So this is kind of a nice aesthetics going on here on the side between these diagonals, the vents. There's our mold line, which is nice because it's kind of, they're trying to integrate it in the design, how it comes up and around. This is very nice, but then they give up because right here it just slices through these diagonals back here, these sculptural diagonals. So they started integrating the mold line, but then they kind of gave up when they got back here. So I don't know what the solution to that would be other than to instead of carrying these lines all the way down, they'd have to stop them on that mold line in order to kind of accent the mold line, and then they could do something different with just this little little part. I don't know if they'd be able to wrap these all the way around and underneath, which is kind of a nice element. You know, the mold line isn't super aggressive, but it is nice how they carry these lines down and under the heel. It kind of wraps around. So, and then there is our outsole pattern, which is kind of organic, kind of a biological. Makes me think of like a baby's footprint. There's just some elements there that are relative to the actual human footprint, you know. Com foam, that must be our outer EVA. I'm guessing they're using a different EVA for the softer aspect of it. So that's kind of a nice design. I like that. It's kind of a semi-abstract footprint. It's cut in a little bit here where this com foam thing is. This is kind of nice. The little toe notch in between the big toe. And this is kind of a reductionist pattern, playing off of the form that they've already created here. So that's kind of nice. I like that. They're doing it down on the heel also. So that's kind of a nice dash. So I like the outsole, but it's all the same EVA as the upper. We don't have like a traction pad on the bottom, like a rubber traction pad. So these look pretty good. Let's find out how the sizing is. We've got another mold seam right here, this vertical. It's very subtle though. I don't know if you can see that. There it is. But yeah, I think that's everything on hand. There's the Ning logo on the back. So cool. I'm a big fan of Chinese culture. I do a lot of meditation and Qigong. I'm gonna do another subscriber special here coming up soon. I'm at like 750. I want to do a 777 special. And I'll talk about myself a little more and my interests in education and kind of work history and stuff. I'll get into a little bit of my interaction and experience with Chinese culture. That I've been doing this Qigong practice for about 13 years now, and it originates out of China. I used to work for a Chinese company for about 3 years. Worked at a buffet for a few years, all Chinese employees. And I also worked for a Chinese valve company. It was one of the girls that worked at the buffet. Her boyfriend's father owned a valve company, iron casting back in China, and I worked for that company for about 8 months before his visa ran out, because he finished his schooling and then he moved back to China, and that kind of ended that opportunity and stuff. But I've had a lot of Chinese friends over the years, so I'm a big fan of China. Chinese people, Chinese culture. I'm not a big fan of the Communist Party, but we won't get into that because I don't want to lose viewers. Because people get super sensitive the moment you start talking negative about the Communist Party. So we will avoid that topic for now. Let's throw these on foot and see how they fit. All right. I used to, when I worked for that buffet, I interacted a lot with the staff, the servers, the Chinese servers. Went on a few dates with a couple different servers, but the only problem was, like, they never worked there very long. So they'd come in for a couple months, and I'd start talking to one of them, and then they were just there for like a temporary job, and then that position would they'd want to do something different than leave, so that would kind of cut short the relationships. But I used to drive the servers to and from Detroit, because they'd come in on a bus down in Detroit, and I'd go down and pick them up or take them down after work when they go back to New York to visit family and friends and stuff. A lot of them lived in New York. But yeah, I've had lots of interactions with Chinese people over the years. All my managers were Chinese too. I had a huge crush on my first Chinese manager, but she was married. She was a big flirt though. But anyways, I digress. All right, so sliding into these, the sizing is better than I was anticipating. These aren't they're not too small, which is good. One thing I'm noticing, there's a very, very similar design going on to the Rigors, and I'm gonna put them right next to each other because I don't really even have to describe it, because you can kind of see the similarities there. They're very similar in their design, almost a carbon copy between these soft slippers and the Rigor Shark 3s. So instead of, it's not an open toe design, we have a toe window design, which is relative between these two. And then even the air vents on the side were kind of relative. I pointed out earlier, the form of the top, the entire upper, is very similar. We've got a little bit of an accent up here, kind of like we've got a little bit of a shark fin up top here. And then we're also, like, even on the back is very similar. We've got the insole isn't removable on the Nings, but it's similar, like double-edged design, so to speak, to where we've got this outer shell and then a softer insole. There's kind of a nice texturing on foot with the Nings. I don't know if you can see it, those bumps. Those feel kind of nice underfoot, especially like barefoot. That's not very aggressive, so you might not be able to notice them as much with socks on, but that's kind of a nice subtle texture there. And I like this color too. I kind of like this color. These are good. These are decent slides, especially for the price and for free shipping. These are good. So I have one negative about them, and that's the top strap. It fits a little loose. That's one thing about the Shark 3s is the Shark 3s are taller. They've got a lot thicker of an insole, but it raises the foot up a little more, so there's more contact with the top strap on the Shark. So they want to hold in place a little bit better. Whereas these Nings, I've got a lot more space between my foot and the top strap, which we could always shrink down if I wanted to hit them with some heat, which we might end up doing in the future. These might even actually shrink down over time naturally. I've noticed that with Crocs. Models that were a little big, a little loose fitting on me, I revisit them like a year later and they fit perfect. So just going through a summer season, I think the EVA tends to retract a little bit and shrink down. So that's really the only negative takeaway that I've got going on so far. These run true to size. You don't need to go up. Granted, they don't have 13s. The 12s were the biggest, but with the Shark 3, I had to go up to a 13 because of how kind of crunched the toe box gets on these. So these are still getting pretty crunched in the toe box, but they're bigger. They don't run small. So I still have ample room up in the forefoot and the toe box for my toes in these 12s, which is very reassuring because that tells me that the other 12s are probably going to fit me. With all these other Chinese slides on this Ning website, they will probably fit in the 12s. So that's very reassuring because then we can start trying some of these other designs. So the footbed on these is very reminiscent of the AG Whale 2s and the Jokers. So they've got a good amount of squish going on underfoot, but they've got a very flat footbed to them. That's one thing I appreciate the Shark 3s about is they've got a little flatter of a footbed, but they fill my arch. They've got a little more of an arch rise, and there's just kind of this very prominent like ripple effect on the footbed, and it just tends to fill the void of the arch a little bit better. These tend to rise up a little more too at the forefoot, and I think it's due to this this plug on the bottom, because there's a lot more foam incorporated with that plug, so it tends to just elevate that part of the footbed a little more, which kind of naturally then fills my arch a little bit for me, just the way that these are formed. And with these soft slippers, these Nings, it's kind of like the AG Whales in that there's not a whole lot of additional rise where the arch is. It's a very flat footbed, and it's basically just left up to the compression of the insole at that point to fill the arch void. So I've got a little bit of a pocket. I've got the Adidas pocket right in the center of the arch, right in the center of the shoe. It's not terrible, but it's not filling my arch 100%. So, but it's not a bad footbed. It's still very nice and soft. If you're looking for a soft Chinese slide, and you're wanting that double-edged design that these all have with the outer shell and the softer insole, these might be your best bet, because these are more true to size. You're not going to struggle with your sizing as much in these as you will with the AG Whales. And these are kind of achieving the same experience. And these aren't as bulbous looking as the AG Whales also. These are kind of, they're a little more streamlined in their design, which is good. Like the AG Whales have a big Yeezy thing about them with how bulbous the front half is, where these are a little more traditional in their design and a little more like sleek in their style, which is pretty good. So, but you can see how much space I have there between the strap and my foot. So, and I don't think I'd want to go down a size. Just to, like, how the toe box narrows, I don't think I want to go down to an 11. So, we can maybe shrink these down a little bit. I don't know. We'll think about it. So let's, oh, I got my electricity back on. I've got lights again. The electrician came yesterday, and then we discovered there's a separate breaker box for my floor. So I didn't destroy anything per se with the electrical system here. Nobody knew about the breaker box on the second floor. Walking impression is pretty good. They are a little loose though. They're a little sloppy fitting. They're very kind of similar to the AG Whales in that sense, but they're not as giant though as the AG Whales. Not as bulbous, but I'm having to kind of hold on with my toes a little bit as I'm walking, just because that upper strap isn't super tight, but I'm thinking that we could probably shrink it down. We might add that to a foam shoe workshop video, because even though these are a little bigger, I want to keep them. I kind of want to start like a Chinese slide collection. That's one thing I am remorseful of with the Jokers and the AG Whales, is that I don't have them in hand anymore to like pull out for these videos as like a comparison thing, you know. So we will keep these, and we will try to maybe shrink down the top strap in the future. So we'll see, but let's get some down low footage. Alright, let's get some down low footage. Okay. So yeah, I'm digging the comfort on these. They're very nice. Very akin to the AG Whales. Not as good as the Rigora, but they're pretty close. The Rigora just have a better footbed. But I like the color options with these. So these are good. These are pretty good. Thanks to the viewer who requested these. You've opened up a new window for me with all of these Chinese slide designs. because there's a dozen different slide designs. I think this video is already getting kind of long, but maybe when I do the description, when I read the sales pitch, I can I'll show a little footage off the Ning website of some of the other slides that they've got. They've got some pretty funky designs, which I'm kind of excited about, and they're not all like super expensive either. They're pretty good. But yeah, not to get off topic, but my first manager at that buffet, her name was Bebe. I had a huge crush on Bebe. She was pretty hot, but she was married to the kitchen manager. They were kind of running the place, and they had kids together and stuff. And I'm respectful of other people's marriages, so I didn't really try to flirt with her too much. But she was always a big flirt with me. So, and then Anna was the second manager after Bebe left. And then Anna's sister I went on a date with. Amy was her name. Amy was very petite. Sure, her English wasn't very good though, so it was difficult for me to communicate with her. But Amy was very sweet. I had to deal with customers a lot, and I remember a couple instances where I was arguing with a customer, and she came up and stood behind me, which was Amy did, I should say, came up and stood behind me. And I didn't understand at the time what she was doing, but because I kind of turned around and I was like, "What do you want?" And she just kind of like acted like she was grabbing something else, but I know that she was kind of trying to back me up a little bit in that situation. But I didn't realize it until like after the fact. And she had already moved back to New York and stuff and wasn't working there anymore, but it was a very, very sweet gesture, very kind gesture. So I've got a soft spot for the Chinese ladies. Sorry, forgive me, getting off topic. But anyways, I like these Ning slippers, these soft slippers. These are pretty good. I'm a big fan of them. There was another surfer. I can't remember her name, but she got caught stealing, and I had to go back to New York. But I bought her flowers one time for Sweetest Day. She was she was funny. But all right, enough about the Chinese ladies. The Ning are good. I dig them. I recommend them. I don't really know. My brain is not even focused on these right now, so we'll just we can wrap this up. These are good. I dig them. The price is right. The comfort's good. Free shipping. You can't go wrong with that. You can't go wrong with free shipping. All right. Hang on. Okay. So these are pretty good. Ning soft slipper, I think is what they're called. I recommend them. They're pretty decent. The comfort's good. The top strap is a little loose, kind of a little sloppy fitting, but I think that's something that we can probably fix with a little bit of heat. And the hair dryer, we might be able to tighten them down a little bit so they fit a little bit better. But that's really my only negative about these. They're very similar to the Rigora and similar to the AG Whales and similar to the Jokers. They all like this design, this double-edged design, I'm noticing. But it's not a terrible design, but they're all very relative. It makes me think of like Adidas and how 90% of Adidas are all like the same slide. I have a video that I'll upload at some point too that kind of shows that off. I started editing it. I'm doing a comparison between the Adilette Light and the Adidas Comfort slide, and kind of reviewing both of them also. But that's one of my complaints with Adidas is they've got like a dozen slides that are all the same. Just subtle variations with the foam or with the strap, but they're all that same like comfort slide design and stuff. But it's kind of, I'm getting a similar repetition going on with these Chinese slides, is where they're all kind of following the similar pattern with their design. So I'm curious who was the first to kind of establish this design that they're all following. It's not a terrible design, but it's very unique. It's very distinct with the Chinese slides, I'm noticing. So But they're good though. They're good. It's not a terrible thing. But I like variety. I like a little variety. So that's partly why I wanted to try all these other different Chinese slides. Is they've got some really funky designs going on that might bring something new to the table. So, all right, enough about the Li Ning and Chinese women. We'll wrap this video up. Thanks for watching. Thanks to the viewer who requested this slide. They're pretty good. And like I said, you kind of opened up a new window of slides for me now that I know that this Li Ning website is legit. So we will we'll get some more going in the future. But I think that's everything. So I got a lot of good ones coming. I got a bunch that have arrived like within the past couple of days. So unfortunately, this is my long work week, so I'll have to wait until next week to get them uploaded. But we'll try to bang out a couple of them today. But enough rambling. We'll see you guys in the next one. Take care. Cheers.